Hello, Samantha Scroggins. My husband and I, Brian, did a video on our little homestead that we're doing here, and we wanted to update you all on our rabbits and what we've been doing with them. I don't know if you can see them or not, but this is our oldest litter that we had, and they're reaching about 6 weeks of age now. We recently had another litter, but unfortunately we lost them to the elements, which I'll talk about later. First thing I want to talk about is kind of the lessons that we've learned so far from our little endeavor with these guys. And first thing is the cost, the upfront investment of getting rabbits. When we first got into this, we didn't think it would cost too terribly much. I think to get the 3 adults was $30 altogether. But I think so far we spent around $500 getting the hutches on feed, bedding, the containers to hold their feed and water. It's cost quite a bit, but ways that you might be able to get around that is maybe using used equipment, building your own, which we have done to the extent of this one right here. Going to used stores, seeing what they have, using makeshift containers, like we're using a Pyrex bowl instead of the watering containers that we bought from Rural King, which can be kind of pricey. Something that we might be trying this summer to supplement their food, and so that's our biggest cost, is the feed. We really weren't anticipating how much these guys would really go through, especially with the babies getting bigger and eating more and more every day. So something that we're going to be trying this spring is we're going to be trying to raise our own alfalfa, orchard grass, timothy hay, portioning off a portion of the yard, and either allowing them to free range or harvesting it, drying it, and storing it for winter use. Something you might want to think of if you don't have a large area, if you're going to be keeping them indoors, like in a barn or something of that sort, is to use something such as this over here, incorporating it into the design of your hutches so you can haul the waste away. It's a good idea if you don't want it all over your yard. Doing something such as composting is a good idea, especially if you garden.
And that tray goes underneath and it catches the waste and urine.
It just slides right here.
Yeah, there we go.
Makes it pretty easy. Something else that we learned also is bedding. It's expensive if you're able to find something such as shredded paper, or if you read the daily newspaper, shred your own newspaper to use for these guys, because they will go through a lot of it, especially the little ones. The adults, we've pretty much trained them not to go in their houses, so I just have to add bedding about once or twice a week, and that's really about it. I don't have to change it out every week. Something that we've added to the design of these to help with waste management which is an improvement upon the design, is bottoms that come out. So this was the younger kit's cage. As you can see, it's still a design flaw that we will have to work through eventually, but in the wintertime you can have this along with bedding, especially for does that are breeding, so that they are not so exposed. But in the summertime you can take it out and you can just let their waste fall through. So it's a bit of an improvement. We still have a ways to go to improve these hutches. The other hutches, they don't have bottoms whatsoever, so it's kind of a problem in the wintertime that we're concerned with. But instead of using wood chips or shredded paper, we've used straw, which resists falling through a bit. So they still have a bottom that they can get off of the wire mesh. They still have something that they can bed down in and get away from the elements a bit. Another thing that we learned pretty quickly, especially once the kids got old enough to be separated from their mother, it came time to wean them, was the space issue, and also having a breeding plan. When we first got our rabbits, the one that we bought was already bred, and this one was accidentally bred, but luckily it didn't take, because if it had taken, we would have been hurting for space. But as it stands, and it's probably lucky that we lost her kits. It's unfortunately that we did, but it kind of helped us out in the long run because we really weren't ready for them. But be prepared to have extra space for your rabbits. Like, we're lucky that this is a smaller litter, because it's probably going to be around 6 to 10 kits that you can expect. That's what we've had so far. And this is working for the moment, but they grow exponentially. It's ridiculous how fast they grow. They're all together still, males and females, but here probably within another month or so we're going to have to separate them. They have around another 2 months before they're to slaughter weight, which for their breed is going to be around 8 pounds. But we're kind of experimenting to see how long we can keep the males and females together, which I know is kind of risky, but they shouldn't be able to be bred until 5 months, and we're hoping to slaughter them at 4. So we'll see how the space issue goes, but they probably will need to be separated eventually just because this cage isn't going to be big enough for 6 rabbits, especially when they start getting a little bit meatier. So our breeding plan basically is 2 months before these guys are due to be slaughtered, or whatever litter is due to be slaughtered. 2 months beforehand, we'll go ahead and breed one of our does. And by the time that she throws her litter and it's time for them to be weaned, the prior litter will be ready to be butchered. So that's how we're going to do it, but it's good to make a plan and just stick with it and kind of plan ahead and make sure that you have extra space available in case of an extra large litter, or if you need to separate them earlier due to aggression or due to their genders. But that's our plan so far, and I think it's going to work. But just definitely make sure you have space. Oh, other hutch improvements that we made. As you can see, this is just plywood, and it's not going to last very long. So what we did over here, we kind of took this design and made it our own, but we added this to it. As you can see, just plain old plywood underneath there. But this allows water to leave the slough off, and we don't have to worry about it rotting, whereas with here, you can already see we're starting to warp. So, just kind of wanted to show you that if you're going to be outdoors, it's definitely a good idea to have something in the means of roofing. Something else that we did with this. Now, as you can see, these are individuals. I kind of like this design better, but Brian likes this design better, where they're all together. So if you're going to have something where it's all just one solid piece, is make sure you have enough support. So I think from our last video, you could already start to see where this was sagging and they had to have extra support. And it's still kind of a pain to move around, but if there's 2 of you, it's definitely more than capable. If it's just 1, I would look at maybe a smaller design such as this and putting wheels on it and moving it around on your own. Unless it's going to be stationary, then it won't be that bad at all. Also, I guess another big thing that we've learned with these guys is we kind of threw ourselves into it. We had a general idea, but we really didn't have a solid business plan. And I say business plan because you're going to be spending money on these guys, whether it's going to be food for your family or yourself, or if you're going to be selling them as pets. You need to know what you're going to be doing with them and have a good plan to follow along with it. We're mainly planning on raising these guys for meat ourselves, or maybe to sell a few as pets, or once they're slaughtered to sell to other people and make up a little extra money. But for the most part, we've learned that right now we're losing money compared to gaining it. So you really need to look at your business model and decide what you need to do in order to kind of stay at least in the black and you're not going into the red with these guys. We're hoping that by selling a few of them now as pets, and maybe even a few after they get to slaughter weight, that we might be able to make our money back. But really the main issue is feed. Feed is really expensive, as I mentioned earlier, and you really need to counterbalance between how much you're going to spend on feed with these guys and how much you're going to be gaining, whether it's just feeding your family or whether you're going to be selling them. It's a really big issue. Winter breeding. Like, we already touched on this guy, this doe over here, how we lost her kits during the winter time. You really need to supply an additional heat source or bring them indoors, either into the shed or garage or barn. So as I said, it worked out in our favor because we really don't have space for an additional litter at the moment, but it still really sucks to lose 10 kits. And it really sucks for her too, because she's already lactating and now she has to go through the pain of going through that again. But that's pretty much all that we've learned so far. Do you have anything you want to talk about, Brian? But that's what we've got so far, and if there's anything else that we learn or think about, we'll probably post another video for you guys. And that's about it. These are our rabbits. These are hutches.